video, I'll quickly talk about trimming lines so that you get a segment instead of the entire line. So I mentioned this briefly in my horizontal and vertical lines video, but I'll talk about it with horizontal and vertical lines. I'll also talk about it with some other things like a circle. Okay, so to trim this line, again, this line has no left or right, which is X. It only has up and down, which is Y. So I want to trim the up and down. Again, let's say I don't want this entire line. I only want from 5 to 10. I only want this segment right here. I only want from 5 to 10. So again, I want it to go from, I want to change the Y because Y is up and down. Okay, so I'm going to limit Y. The way I'm going to do this is I'm going to use curly braces. So I'm going to use the Desmos keypad, ABC, and then I'm going to click curly brace. And again, what I want is I want the Y's to be bigger than 5, but I want them to be smaller than 10. So I'm going to write that with an inequality. I'm going to do that 5. I need Y to be bigger than that, but I need it to be less than 10. You could also use the less than or equal to. Okay, the only difference is whether you actually get a dot right on there or not. Okay, so again, this says that Y is in between 5 and 10, and so I get my graph. If it doesn't show up, chances are you put these in backwards, you put your inequalities in backwards, so that, again, if you were to read this, this says that Y is less than 5 but greater than 10, which is impossible, which is why when you look at my graph, I don't get anything. So again, if something's not showing up, usually a common fix is to flip your inequalities the other way around, see if that does it. Okay, again, you can use the Desmos keypad to type those in, or your keyboard. So again, this runs from 5 to 10. If, say, I was doing a horizontal line, horizontal lines don't have any up and down. They only have left and right. Left and right is controlled by X. So again, if I say I wanted this to go from -3 here, and I wanted it to maybe run to 4, I would do the same thing. I would insert the curly braces, and I'd say, hey, I want this to start at -3, and I want it to go until I get to 4. Again, I'm using X because X is left and right, so this is saying I want the X's to be bigger than -3, but smaller than 4. Okay. Again, if I wanted it to just be like one of these, like bigger than -3, I could do that. Then what it's going to do is it's going to start at -3 and go on for forever. If I wanted it to stop somewhere, then I would put in another inequality for what I want it to be in between, right? So if I want it to be in between 3 and 5, I put in 3 and 5. This trimming also works for other shapes. So say for a circle, if I were trying to say make a smiley face, and I only want the bottom half of the circle, okay, so I want like from here, the very bottom of the circle. Again, if I want the bottom half, like up and down, so I want it to go from 1, and maybe I want it to stop like right here halfway. So the height at halfway is 5, 9, 5. So I want this to go from 1 to 5, so I only get the bottom half. Okay, so since I'm limiting up and down, I'm trimming it up and down, I'm going to use Y. And again, I want it to go from 1 to 5. So now, again, I only get the part of the circle that goes from 1 to 5. Okay. If, say, for instance, I wanted to split this circle in half, but I wanted to split it left and right in half, so like I wanted it to go from here, and I wanted it to stop right here. Okay, right, so I want it to go from this point right here to this blue line here. I want to trim it left and right, so that is in X. So again, I would put in the curly braces. I am going to trim it from 1 to 5. So I'm going to go from 1 to 5. Again, you can use the less than or equal to or the less than here. It's just whether it's actually right on the line, or as you can see, it doesn't quite go right to 5 because there's no actual dot there. If I want to fix that, I just switch these to be the less than or equal to. Okay, so again, now I get that half of the circle. You can also, if I take this off and we look at maybe another function, So I'll put in like a wave here. Again, if I wanted the upper half of these waves, I could say, hey, I want the y's to be greater than 0. So if I put in that, it gives me only the numbers that are bigger than 0. If, say, for instance, I only wanted these first two waves, so like this up, down, and I wanted it to stop here, then I could trim it left and right. So I would use x, and so I'd look at the x coordinate. I want it to go from 0 to 4 pi. So the way I would do that is I would put in 0 less than or equal to x. There's a pi button right here, so 4 pi, and then it only gives me that.